Hello again, and welcome back. Lesson 4, editing your workbook. All right, so we are going to be learning how to insert and delete columns. We deleted rows the last lesson. Freezing panes, which you'll see what that means in a minute. Adding worksheets and renaming a worksheet. In this lesson, you will create a spreadsheet that showcases a list of books that have sold over 100 million copies. I think you'll be surprised what's on that list. I know I was. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go through the steps. Create a new spreadsheet. Done. Use the default. Done. Type the data shown in figure 4. Okay, here we go. All right, so here's our data. Once again, I'm going to pause the video and type in the data into my blank spreadsheet, and then meet up with you on the other side. Okay, here I am. And notice that here is the information that I typed. Notice that the information kind of got cut off here because the columns are at the right size. You can choose to change the size of your columns at any time. You know, maybe a better thing for me to have done would have been to take a look at how much space approximately was needed and just resize the columns a little bit so that it made it easier to understand as I was typing. But I'm going to go ahead and change the columns to an appropriate size right now. I'm going to type in my name. Okay, you should do that too. All right, now, so we have step 3 is done. Step 4, we resized all the columns so that it looks nice and readable. Step 5, save the presentation. Dang, we're breezing through this. All right, step 6, copy and paste cell C4 into cells C5 through C11. C4, okay, through C5 through C11. All right, so this is kind of a cool technique. Remember to copy and paste. We can either right-click, go to Edit, or simply highlight the cell that we want to copy or cut and press Control-C. Okay, now what's kind of cool is that I can paste this into numerous cells at once. It's saying paste cell C4 into cell C5 through C11. So I'm actually going to go ahead and highlight C5 through C11 by clicking and dragging. Okay, and now I'm going to paste or press Control-V, right? And that went ahead and filled everything with the word English, which is pretty cool. All right, so we did step 6. Step 7, insert a new column to the left of column A. Well, remember we did this before with rows where we insert a new row. You need to highlight the row or the column, in this case the column, and you're going to right-click it. I believe, actually, if I click on this little arrow, that's the same as right-clicking. And it says Insert to the left of column A. So we're going to insert a cell to the left of column A. Okay. And then 8 says, starting in cell A4, number each book 1 through 8. So, starting in cell A4, I'm going to do these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. It says, change the data in cell D7 to French and D10 to Chinese. D7, D7, oh, don't get confused. This is book 7, but D7, the cell, is actually right here. Okay. The Little Prince. I've read that book. It's a really sweet book. That's actually written in French. Obviously, I didn't read it in French. I read the English translation. I'm still really surprised that A Tale of Two Cities, 200 million copies sold. Really? That's the highest selling book ever, and it was written in 1859. That's incredible. Sorry, I just had to point that out. I haven't read it, but I do like Charles Dickens. All right. D10 is D7 is French. D10 is Chinese. Okay. All right. And we've basically kind of dealt with our data here, which is great. All right. Now, step 10, rename sheet 1 as book and author. Sheet 1. Well, here's where we need to kind of discuss something kind of interesting about Google Sheets. And I'm going to pause because I want to show you, I'm going to give you, I want to bring up an example so that you can see how useful using worksheets is and what a worksheet is compared to a workbook. So I'm going to pause so I can bring up an example. Okay, so what I opened was my grade book. You've seen me take attendance in class, and some of you have taken attendance for me. That is a grade sheet that I've created using Microsoft Excel, actually. I opened it in Google Sheets, but it is in its original Excel format. That's why it has this kind of interesting little block here. So the reason I opened this up is to show you that at the bottom, you have these little tabs. You may or may not have noticed them before. But these tabs allow you to create multiple sheets in one workbook. Okay? And the vocabulary here is worksheet versus workbook. The workbook is the entire file, is a collection of all of the sheets. Okay? Each worksheet can be added as a tab. So if you look through here, here's my 10th graders. You can see your names in here. Okay? And then what I did was I created a separate actual sheet to keep track of what groups you had been in so that I knew who you had worked with and who you hadn't worked with, to try to ensure that everybody worked with somebody different. So that's for 10th grade. And then I have another tab for the 11th grade, another tab for 12th grade, and we sometimes had jobs and roles in the classroom. I had a spreadsheet for that, and that was all in the same one document. I wouldn't want separate documents for this. I can have basically one workbook and a bunch of different sheets. So you're going to be using these sheets in your workbooks occasionally, and they're just introducing you to this right now. So that's my little detour. Sorry about that. Okay, rename sheet 1 as book and author. So the way that we rename these sheets is go to the arrow, rename, and type in book and author. Okay, so now the sheet is called book and author. In the next lesson, you're actually going to be creating another tab. Okay, freeze the panes in the first and second columns of the spreadsheet. Freezing the panes. Well, I'm going to go ahead, if you don't know what that means, I'm going to go ahead and freeze the panes, and it'll make sense once I do that. All right, so the way that we do that in Google Sheets, and I kind of have to remember how to do this, I think we go to View. Yep, we go to View. So we go to View, Freeze, okay, and it says no rows, 1 row, 2 rows, up to current row, no columns, 1 column, 2 columns, up to current column B. It says freeze the panes in the first and second columns of the spreadsheet. So we want to freeze the panes in the, so let's do that, and then I'll explain what it is once we do it. So 2 columns. And notice that this gray bar appeared here. Okay. And what that does is that keeps this information in view even if you start to scroll through the information on the right. Because often the information here is like a heading, and you're going to have a lot of information to the right of it, and you don't want to lose track of what those rows are actually indicating. Okay, so that's called freezing a pane. And you can freeze rows, you can freeze columns. In this case, we froze columns so that this stuff is always present no matter how much information is to the right of it. All right, so we did that. Now it says resize all columns and data. Oh, I also want to show you. So let's unfreeze it real quick. View, freeze. If we want to unfreeze it, just go to no rows and no columns. All right. And another trick is if you have your a cell that's selected and you go to view and you go to freeze, you're given a choice of no columns, 1 column, 2 columns, or up to current column. So you could have like 5 columns frozen if you want. So I'm going to just show you up to current column B does the same thing as selecting the 2 columns. That's just another way of doing it. All right. All right. So we've done that. Freezing. We want to resize all the columns so that all the data is displayed. Okay. All the data is currently displayed, but there's a lot of room here. I would say let's get rid of all that room. We're just displaying numbers here, so this column doesn't have to be so wide. Let's double click it and notice that it doesn't have to be that small, maybe a little bit bigger, so that it's a little nice and neat there. All right. And then it says select the entire worksheet and copy to a new sheet. All right. So we have finished our data entry. This looks really nice. Notice that we do all the formatting first. We make sure all the information is accurate. We type in all the information, make sure the information is accurate, and then we format it to make sure that it looks nice. Those are the 3 steps of data entry. Now we're going to select the entire worksheet and copy to a new sheet. So if I want to select the entire worksheet, I could just do this, but that's not really selecting all of the worksheet. The way to select all the worksheet is actually kind of an interesting thing. If I select this, it's going to highlight A, and if I select this, it's going to highlight a row. Well, if I select this box right here, it's going to select the entire worksheet, which is kind of cool, right? So again, I want to select the entire worksheet by going to the corner, clicking on that box, all right? And it says copy to a new sheet. So I'm going to copy, and again I can just press Control-C if I wanted to, and I'm gonna have to move this because it's in the controls of my video program. Okay, and I'm going to add a sheet. Move that back. Okay, and I'm going to, it said copy to a new sheet, so we're going to have to paste it. Okay, so I've got 2 sheets, same information, and then it says rename sheet 2 as year published. So we're going to rename this as year published. Okay. Oops. And that's step 14. It says delete columns C, D, and F in the year published sheet. Do not just clear the contents. Okay, so delete the columns C, D, and F. So we need to fully delete them. So we're going to right click. Actually, what you could do for C and D, since they're right next to each other, is you could do that. And right click and delete C and D. And oh, well, that moved everything over, so I guess F is right here. That was sales. So we're deleting what is now in D, which was in F. All right, and there we go. So we should be left with this. All right. Okay. Carefully proofread your work for accuracy. Check. And be sure all changes have been saved. All right, so this looks pretty good. Hopefully that wasn't too painful.